sitting down here with us, Rich. What is your involvement with the Summer Institute?
My involvement with the 2015 Crow Summer Institute, I'm pretty much just a participant. I just recently got hired as a Crow language instructor with the Hardin School District 17H1, specifically the Crow Agency Public School. And I was encouraged to participate in the Crow Summer Institute in kind of ways of trying to learn different methods of teaching my language to kindergarten through 5th grade.
So is this your first year then with
Yes, this is my first year.
What are your thoughts about it? It's only been going on for what now? The second day?
Yeah. My thoughts on it, it's really a resource to me, you know. It's a resource not only to me but to others that have, you know, that drive to really push for the one vision and one goal of bringing back and reviving our native languages. There's, you know, although all the basic things are learned at home, but you know, this is an opportunity that anybody can seek for, I guess, in supporting, trying to teach the language and the culture as a teacher.
So how prevalent was the Crow speaking in your home growing up?
In my home growing up, it wasn't spoken directly to me. It was just kind of between my mother and my father, and it was very seldom that it was spoken to me. Just the simple commands like maybe sit down or let's eat. Just the simple, basic kind of words, and not really much was spoken, you know, directly to me. But I'll just leave it at that for that question.
23 years old, or you're a young man. How do you view your efforts at learning the Crow language? How is it cool to learn the Crow language for you?
You know, me, myself, nowadays we hear a lot of individuals use the excuse of saying, my mom and dad didn't teach me. My mom and dad didn't talk the language. They didn't show me, you know. And I myself, I was in the same boat. My mother and father didn't talk Crow to me. It was heard. I heard it amongst, you know, when they talked amongst themselves. And same thing with my grandparents. And I was shown the language and the culture by my grandfather, by him showing me the ropes of the cultural part of the Crow way of life, sweat lodges, powwows, hand games, sun dances, parades, Crow fair, and when I was at a young age looking at these things, I saw it in a way that individuals were highly respected in these doings. People respected each other. People were happy, and somewhere along the way, it touched my heart, and I took it as an interest to learn my language and learn my culture, and apply myself in wanting to learn my language. And my experience of learning my language, I learned it on my own. It was 3rd grade when I first started speaking the language, and there were many times that I got corrected, but I didn't get mad, I didn't get discouraged. kept going, and now I'm one of the few that is a fluent Crow speaker at a young age. And you know, I don't like to look at it as a way of bragging, because in a way, it's sad to say, because me as a Native American, me as an Apsaalooke, you know, I take pride in my native tongue. There's nothing like it in this world. I want to learn it, and it's who we are as Native Americans. Our own tongue, our native tongue, you know, and especially our land. It's beautiful, you know, and the way I like to see it is, there's people across this world that would do anything to sit where I'm sitting right now, just to trade spots with me, just for one day, you know, and I'm fortunate that I'm able to sit here and speak my native tongue, and have knowledge of my culture and my history, especially at a young age, you know. So that goes to show that that excuse of my mother and my father didn't show me how. It's just an excuse for laziness. Anything, as human beings, if we want to learn anything in this world, we have to apply ourselves. We have to have that want to in order to learn anything. Same way with our native language. We got to have that drive. We got to have that passion. It's got to come from here, and that's where mine comes from.
What does the Crow language bring to, I guess, knowledge of the Crow people? What does the Crow language, how does the Crow language bring in? I guess the question is, what does the Crow language do for the knowledge of the natural world around you?
The Crow language, it's the way the way it is looked at, the way I look at it, and I'm sure many of the elders look at it, is in the Crow language, there's no such thing as a bad word. There's no such thing as putting down one another. That's how much the language, you know, our language and our culture of the Apsaalooke is based on respect. And in the Crow language, they say Apsaalooke amoladau. Apsaalooke amoladau. That's the everyday characteristics of a Crow person, a Crow member. In the everyday, you know, we as human beings, we all have, they call it bolera dawa, they're characteristics. We all have our own characteristics. We all have, we have a way that we act about certain things. You know, we all have it. It's everywhere. And when it comes to Apsaalooke, aladau, it's kind of just preferring to having respect for yourself, importantly, the way you talk, the way you dress, the way you present yourself, and respect for others. My grandmother told me once, in order for you to be respected by others, you got to respect yourself, meaning the way you dress, the way you talk. And the language, the way what it does, it kind of seems like there's a supernatural power to it. Just speaking the language, you know. Jokes are more funnier in the Crow language, you know, to me. And stories have a whole lot more meaning to them in the Crow language. You know, that's how much that's what it does. When we try to translate it into English, it's kind of it doesn't have that kick to it, you know. And that's the way that's what I think it does to me.
Others of your age group, your peers, your buddies, how would you see guess your peers trying to maybe learn language is it widespread?
Like, how could they learn the language? Or-
No, are your buddies, are you just like one of your buddies that you hang out with?
Oh, do they speak the language as well? Oh, yeah. When I graduated graduated from high school in 2011 from Hardin, Montana. There was a little over 150 total high school students in the senior graduating class. Of those, roughly 160 or so senior classmates, senior class members, there was nearly probably 70 Crow members. And amongst those 70 Crow members, I was the only one that spoke the Crow language fluently. And so I took it upon myself to write a letter to the school board, to the superintendent, to the school body, and requested an opportunity to speak at the 2011 Hardin High School graduation. In intention to encourage my peers to learn the language, to take pride in it, it's who we are. And I spoke in front of nearly 2,000 people that day, and I got many compliments on it. And to this day, people still bring it up to me. And my peers, when I graduated, there was one young man that was a senior he was a junior. He was the class below me, and his name was Riley Singer. When he graduated, same thing. He was the only one. And after he graduated, there's no more fluent speakers. And a lot of my friends, my peers, that I hang out with, whenever they're around me, they try to learn the language. They ask me questions. They want to know. But the thing is, nowadays, amongst the young people, of why we're losing our language is due to the fact of laughing at one another, a form of embarrassment, discouragement. When an individual says something wrong, they're laughed at or they're corrected in front of a lot of people, and they get embarrassed. And they get discouraged by that. And so, in a way, we got to kind of find a way to get back to that old way of, if we want to correct somebody, we pull them out of the room, take them outside, tell them in a nice way, and encourage them, tell them they're doing a good way. And then going back to maybe the class of a lot of people. But nowadays, people are corrected in front of a lot of people. And that's why a lot of the young generation is kind of scared to speak the language. A lot of them understand, but it's just that form of discouragement that takes place that really doesn't really, they're kind of bashful and shy.
Excuse me, are you hopeful for the continuation of the language?
I'm very fortunate to be hired as a Crow language instructor as well as a student advocate, because it is my heart's deepest desire to bring back my language of my people, the Apsaalooke. One day in my time, it is my wish that all of my people speak the language. While I'm here on this earth, I will continue to seek different methods of teaching the language, and I will do my best to bring back my language. In the future I see of it is I was told once by an elder, and there's a quote that kind of goes along with it by, I guess his name was Marcus Garvey. They said, a person without the knowledge of his past history or origin is like a tree without roots. In, you know, that's kind of, that pretty much explains, you know, us Native Americans. Us Native Americans, you know, in our culture, in our teachings, in our history, there are ways of handling ourselves in our everyday life. There are teachings in there. But if we don't know those teachings and something happens, we get into like a stir, and we don't have those teachings, we don't know what to do. We drive ourselves crazy. We don't know what to do. We want to just give up. As for an individual that has that knowledge and has them teachings, will know how to handle themselves. Will know how to go about getting over that obstacle. Will know how to go about fixing that stir. And that's what I want to teach to my people. And if I can bring back, you know, as well as many others, bring back the native language and the culture of having respect, I believe that it will wipe out the problem of alcohol, the problem of drugs, the problem of addiction. Because in our culture, in our language, it is, like I said, it is based upon respect. Now, if an individual has so much respect, especially for themselves, they won't use alcohol. They won't use drugs. They'll respect one another. We wouldn't have a need for police if our culture and our language was alive and running strongly. But we're losing our culture and our language, and that's why across Native America there's so much problems of drugs and addiction, alcohol. But if we can get together and bring back our culture, bring back our language, that'll solve that problem. And that's what I see in the future of the language and the culture. It is my culture and my language that made me who I am today. At a young age, 23 years old, I have a job where I'm able to teach my culture and my language, do 30, 40 plus years, and be able to retire from doing what I love. I thank the Creator for I'll never have to work a day in my life because I'm doing what I love.